Hi, and welcome to the Inside Story. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Stephen Robinson. Stephen is author of No Harm in Trying. He's also an inventor and motivational speaker. Steve, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. You nearly said, what were you going to say then? Not motivational. I don't know what you were going to say, but it sounded nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with it. That's a nice intro. Thank you.
You're welcome, even though I fluffed it, but there you go. Just goes to show we're live. That's how it is. So what have you been up to?
Well, what have I not been up to? Well, my life's pretty manic and pretty crazy, but I like it that way. I've been restoring a vintage jukebox from the 1940s, and I love doing stuff like that. But it's got so many problems, and somebody's had a go at restoring it before, and they've done such a poor job of it that I'm having to undo all the work that they've done to put it back right. But they've done a poor job, but it looks really good what they've done. But when you look really close, the detail's just not there. And the wiring they've done is all incorrect. So I've had to redo all the wiring. And it would have never worked. Anyway, it's almost there, and it's partially working now. And I reckon within the next few weeks, maybe the next month or so, it'll be up and it'll be ready, and it'll be ready to show off to everybody. But I love that type of stuff. I just love making things work that haven't worked for years.
Right, so we should probably take you back a little bit, because there'll be people watching that perhaps haven't come across you before and know your background. So I mentioned their inventor. Your inventions are born of necessity, probably fair to say.
True, and they do say that the necessity is the mother of invention, and it's really true, yes. And the type of things we've invented, I guess, range from a multitude of tools, because you can't buy tools for one-armed men or women. They just don't exist. So you have to really either get a tool and then modify it, or create something totally different that doesn't exist. And I've had to do that since the age of 18, really. Because otherwise it was just sit down and do nothing, because that's the age I lost my right arm in a motorbike accident. So it was a case of go forwards and adapt things and adapt yourself so that continue, or sit back and do nothing for the rest of my life. But, life had only just died at the age of 18, although I was unemployable and basically retired. So I had loads and loads of spare time. But that actually, I didn't realize at the time was a godsend, because now I had all this spare time. I could practice and try all the things that I wanted to try earlier in life that I'd never done.
See, I mean, this is the thing that I've always found brilliant about you, and the thing that everybody in the reviews, we've had some fantastic reviews about the book, but they've also the same thing, is that you've got such a positive outlook on what's happened. So there you are at 17, right on the cusp of life. You've got either an apprenticeship with Formula One. Am I right?
I had an apprenticeship lined up with the Formula One pits, because I was a top student at the technical college. I was training to be a motor mechanic, and I was, me and one other guy were the top students. So we got all the best jobs and all the best projects, and I had a job lined up in the Formula One pits, which I was super looking forward to.
But there's also a chance that you were going to go in the RAF as well, wasn't there? Because the
other option, I'd actually been to the local RAF office, which was just really in my city in the centre of Leeds. And I'd gone there to say, I really fancy being an aircraft technician. And they said to me, well, why didn't you come to us direct? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know why I'd not gone to you direct. It only through being a motor mechanic and studying at college that this idea had grown in my mind about the RAF. So I suppose I needed to do college to even realise I could do aircraft. Yeah. So I said, well, I didn't really realise that you would teach me all the mechanicking. I thought I'd have to be a mechanic first. They said, no, but seeing as you're so near the end of your course, finish your course and then come to us when you've finished, and we'll sign you up to become an aircraft technician. And I thought, right. So I had two fantastic jobs lined up.
So you're right on this really exciting time, which, we're not going to give too much away in the book, but, the beginning of your life hadn't been fantastic, but you just changing it. You're carving your way forward. You found a path that you love. You'd found a way into engineering, which really fired you up. And then in the blink of a moment of stupidity on the part of a complete idiot, your life is changed completely and utterly. And yet,
second.
Yeah, and yet you've not had to me, there's no, probably a lot of people would be bemoaning the fact that they'd lost all these opportunities and be railing against fates and what had happened to them. But for you, it's been very much actually, you know what, it was something that has changed my life for good.
Yeah, it's strange as that, and I often wonder, maybe other people wouldn't be all doom and gloom. Maybe they would just be the same as me. They think, well, what happens, happens. And life is like that. What happens just happens. It's not what you do about what's happening. It's how you deal with it. You can't change it. You can't go back and undo what's done. It's how you move forwards, isn't it? And I didn't really make that conscious decision. I just wasn't that worried and that upset or disappointed. I was more happy because I had really bad acne, and the medication they'd give me in the hospital to stop me getting infection because I'd had an arm ripped off and I had all this internal injury. So all the antibiotics and medication they'd given me had cleared up all my acne. And I'd really suffered badly at the hands of the bullies due to being so spotty. And I hated school and I hated sports and I hated myself. And I was so low esteem, it was dreadful. I was the shyest boy you'd ever met. And all of a sudden, all my acne had gone. And it felt like a weight had been taken off my shoulders. It didn't matter that an arm had gone, because that really was insignificant. Because the major thing, you see, nobody had bullied me because I had two arms, or because I had one arm. Nobody had bullied me for that. They'd bullied me because I had acne. And now that ammunition had been taken away. So I realized I couldn't be bullied anymore. So I was happy. I thought, life's brilliant. It was absolutely amazing. It was a disappointment I'd lost an arm for sure, because I realized that all my job opportunities had gone, or I thought they would have gone, because I did go back to college and continue with my motor mechanicking course, and I passed with flying colours. And of course, they weren't certain whether the examiners had taken like a little bit of sympathy and given me higher marks. So the head of school went back and said to them, "Are you sure these marks are correct?" And they were correct. I'd been studying while I was laid up in hospital. I'd not just sat there in hospital and thinking, woe is me. I was studying and reading my books at the same time. And and the fact that I'd lost a job in the Formula One pits, well, that was disappointing. But, I wasn't 100% certain whether I would have liked it anyway. Yeah. And, who knows? And with regards to the RAF, yeah, that was disappointing. I would have liked to have gone in the RAF. And I did go to the RAF office afterwards and said, unfortunately, I've lost my right arm and I wanted to join. And they knew my face. And I said, would you still take me with one arm? And I said, oh, no. Yeah. I said, well, fair enough. At least I came and I asked. And then you just think, well, what is it a one-handed guy can do? Well, you don't know if you've never trained as a one-handed guy. So the only thing you can do is everything until you find something that you can do. So that's exactly what I did. I did everything, and I found that I was quite good at everything, and I'd never been good at anything before. And I don't know whether that was just a change in mindset or whether it was by necessity that I realized I had to be good at things and I had to study them rather than just go gun-ho, thinking I've got two arms. If it don't fit, hit it harder. I couldn't do things like that. I had to think about techniques. How would I do this with one arm? How would I modify this tool? And when I modified the tool, how would I fit this part? How would I do this? How would I do that? And each step was a logical step just to the next level, really. And then life just developed like that. That I realized that every situation and every problem was really just a set of small steps that I just had to pass.
Which and you have, and I mean, you've not really done small steps. You've done massive leaps, haven't you? Let's face it.
I have, but they don't start with massive leaps, do they? It really is. It is really a little fairy step towards, I want to do this, so I'll take my first step. And your first step is you ask somebody. Your second step is you do something about asking somebody, and then you do the next step, and you do the next step. And if you break it down and you don't think about the final big goal, if you think about the big goal that you're aiming for, you wouldn't do it because it's too far away and it's too hard. But if you break it down into little steps, you only need to do this today and I need to do that tomorrow and the day after, and you go bit by bit by bit by bit, you're just walking towards your final goal, aren't you? Yeah. And that's the way that I approach everything. I don't think I've got to do this now. If I want to drive a beautiful Ferrari, I'm not bothered about cars at all. It's one of the things that just don't bother me. But if I wanted to drive a beautiful Ferrari, my first step would be to learn about Ferraris. And my second step would be learn how can I get the money to buy that Ferrari. But what I would do is I would buy one that was damaged and really not worth as much as they are. I'd buy a really damaged one and I'd repair it and I'd do it up and I'd make it be that expensive car. I wouldn't go straight out and spend £250,000 on a posh Ferrari and not had to do any work for it, because that to me just that means you've just got too much money and you won't appreciate having it if you haven't had to work hard for it.
I'm sensing a new project coming up now. Fast car restoration. So, yeah, you went from the frustration of not being able to get a job to go, okay, so what is it I can do? And the thing that really struck me, and I sat and thought about this for quite a while actually, was that you carried on working on motorbikes. Now, I mean, it's fair to say that motorbikes were your absolute love and your passion from about the age of 10, 11. Yeah. And you'd been off-roading in the local, which is how the accident. We should probably say a guy collided with you by doing a silly stunt. The accident, you were quite innocent involved in that. But read the book; it tells you exactly what happened.
Or you could also say, are we all not innocent? Oh, we're all to blame. Maybe we're all to blame, but then we're all. If I hadn't been there, it wouldn't have happened. If he hadn't been there, it wouldn't have happened. So does that make it his fault? Does it make it my fault? I think it's nobody's fault.
I don't know. I think trying to jump over somebody that's riding the motorbike's probably his fault, to be fair. I think you're being a little bit over generous there, Steve.
Yeah, it's a bit irresponsible.
Yeah. So suddenly your ability to ride bikes was gone. You at that point in time. So the absolute passion, your total and a true love, and I think it's probably still fair to say it's still your true love.
You're still there,
yeah. But you carried on working on them. You carried on fixing other people's bikes, and I think that to me shows a real strength of character. Of you didn't just go, I can't ride them anymore, I can't be around them, which a lot of people again probably would have thought. It's a constant reminder of how my life's changed, and it's a constant reminder of the things I can't do. I need to put that behind me. And it was only actually when you realised that financially they couldn't help you get to where you wanted to be, and there was another path waiting for you, that you kind of said, well, they're not for me right now. And I think that was something that struck me about you. And even at that age, that you didn't just kind of write them off.
No, I never wrote them off, because they're always going to be a passion of mine. If I had two arms still, I'd still be riding a motorbike. I'm pretty certain about that. I just love them. And there's no feeling like it really, except for horse riding, which is very similar. Yeah. And, but yeah, so the thing is, I wasn't earning any money. Friends would get me to repair the motorbikes and they'd say, thank you. And sometimes you appreciate the thanks. Other people would give you £1 or £2, and that was quite insulting. I'd rather have the thanks than £1. And it was strange, really, because I just enjoyed everything mechanical, and I did repair them for a long time. I used to rebuild motorbikes, and I was successful at rebuilding them. I was really good, and I sold them, and I sold quite a few. But the most I ever earned on a motorbike was, I found a book the other day that had written down all the finances of some of the restorations they'd done. But the most I'd ever earned on a motorbike when I sold it was £30. And I'm thinking, now I know I'm going back to the 1980s, but I thought £30, it wasn't worth the amount of effort I was putting in. But you see, all I had was time. Yeah. So time seems to be not that important. I mean, it is as we get older, you think, oh, I wish I'd done more. I mean, I still think myself, I wish I'd done more in my life. I know I've done loads and loads, but I think surely I must have had time to do more than what I've done.
I don't think you could. I genuinely don't think you could have done any more than you've done, unless you'd suddenly got one. Have you watched the Harry Potter movies?
I haven't watched them. Not many of them, to be honest. No.
So you haven't seen the one where she has the time turner and she can go back in time?
Oh, I'll have to watch that one.
Yeah. See, now if you'd had one of them, you could have done loads more. But other than that, I don't think you could have fitted any more in. So you went from motorbikes to jukeboxes. And they became your next passion, and they've actually, it's fair to say, they funded your life from that point onwards and enabled you to do a lot of the things that you've done in your life.
They have, and I did move from one passion to another. And I am a passionate guy. When I want to do something, I'm going to do it right. And it's not that I don't have a conscious thought that I think I've got to do this properly. It's just everything I do has to be done correctly. And I'll start on a job, and if I don't like it halfway through and I think, oh, I'm a millimetre out, or it's just like half an inch to the wrong side or whatever, I'll strip it all back down and I'll start all over again. I'm pretty OCD. I really am. It's got to be absolutely spot on perfect. The amount of times I've repainted stuff because there was one little bit that I didn't like, and it would have been okay, but okay is not good enough.
Yeah.
If it's not absolutely brilliant and spot on, then it needs to be done again. So I keep going, I keep going, I keep going. And I am pretty passionate about things, and I'm passionate about doing things correctly and doing things well. And I suppose that shows up in the restorations I've done of motorbikes and of jukeboxes. But yeah, I bought my first jukebox at a young age, and I found out it was incomplete and it didn't have the right parts. And of course, me being OCD and realizing I can't make this jukebox perfect, I thought, right, well, what I'll do is I'll cut my losses on this one and I'll sell it and I'll move on to the next jukebox. So I sold it and I'd done nothing to it, next to nothing. But a guy bought it off me for £200 and it only cost me £100. So I'd made £100 profit and I'd done nothing. And in comparison to all the work I'd done on the motorbikes and only ever earned just over £30, it was a no-brainer. The jukeboxes were going to be my new future because I didn't know what else to do at that point.
Yeah. So you converted a garage at home, and you turn that into your workshop. I've got some pictures of the workshop, and I mean, it's in some ways looks a bit like a mad scientist lair, but in other ways, I mean, it's just so. I imagine that there's engineers that are getting there and be absolutely blown away because I mean, you've created so many tools. It does make me laugh that you've trained your mum as a screwdriver holder.
Yeah, I keep saying to her, she failed a proficiency in screwdriver. So we call it a screwdriver proficiency test. I failed her 4 or 5 times on it. And anyway, I did say to her not so long since, I said, I think you've passed your screwdriver proficiency part 1. So I need to do a certificate for her. So
you've created all of these great ideas, but then you've kind of moved on from that and you decided that obviously that wasn't enough. So the next thing was to become a pilot, which you've done. So talk us through that. What was the driver behind becoming a pilot?
Well, you're missing a bit about the DJ. I worked as a DJ first.
Sorry, my bad. I wasn't trying to give away the whole book, Steve.
Okay.
I want people to read the book.
Okay, forget that.
We've got DJs, we've got swimming, we've got all kinds of things in there. Just look.
All right, we won't tell it all. We don't want to give too many spoilers. So pilot, I never consciously wanted to be a pilot. I'm afraid of flying. I was petrified of flying. I needed 3 weeks hypnotherapy to go to Spain with some friends. But strangely enough, I used to dream a lot of flying. And I used to dream all the time of flying. Even though I've got one arm, I used to fly by flapping both my arms. I didn't fly in an aircraft. I used to just naturally fly by flapping my arms. And I wonder whether a lot of people dream of flying, but it was a constant dream I had almost every night. I had it for years and years. And I still do it to this day, but not as much. And it was just one of those things when I was looking through the internet one day and I saw this article and it said, flying scholarship for disabled people. And I thought, well, if you're not in it, you'll never win it. Mm. So I applied. And to my surprise, I was awarded a flying scholarship. So I took flight training at RAF Kemble down the Cotswolds. But to be able to fly, I needed a prosthetic arm making. The NHS made that arm. It took them 12 months, so that delayed the start of flight training. And when we tested it out at 3,500 feet, it failed drastically. I mean, it was a miraculous failure, really.
Yeah.
And one that ended up in a spiral dive and is dropping headfirst through a cloud. And I'm the guy afraid of flying, thinking, no, not like this, don't want this. So I continued with flying a little while there, but we realised that I wasn't going to progress because the prosthetic arm didn't work. Yeah. So I came back to Leeds and went to the NHS and asked them to make me a second prosthetic arm. But it took them 12 months to make that. And by the time that was finished, I'd lost the remaining hours of the flying scholarship. But that second prosthetic arm wouldn't work at all. So I thought, shall I just give in, or what do I do? I mean, I don't know what to do. There's no manual. There's no Haynes manual. What to do to fly an aircraft if your prosthetic arm keeps falling off? That book doesn't exist, actually.
You maybe that
should be the next book. That's my cue, by the way.
Yeah.
Do that cue. So maybe that should be the next book. How to fly with one arm. I don't know. So I came up with this idea thinking, well, I've made all these tools. I've made all sorts of stuff. I've made robotic cutting machines. I've made all sorts of stuff. I thought, well, how difficult can it be to make an arm? So I set about making an arm. And at the same time, as you do, and at the same time, I went to my local airfield and tried to convince them to give me flying lessons. Of course, they said, well, nobody with an arm flies an aircraft. So I had to keep trying to convince people. And I used to go every day, and I just made a nuisance of myself. And I'd approach somebody every day saying, will you teach me to fly? And they'd say, oh, we can't really do it with an arm. And I'd ask, and I'd be there again, and I'd ask, and I'd ask, and I'd ask. And I realized that perseverance is the key to a lot of things. And if you keep asking people, you'll beat them down eventually. And eventually, just to shut you up, they'll say, well, come on, let's go for a flight and let's see what you can do. Yeah. And that's what happened. And that was the start of it, really. And then I was passed from pillar to post with people that said, well, I'm not sure you can do it. Until this guy said to me one day, he said, you won't be able to fly. He said, because you need to operate the throttle of the aircraft and the steering at the same time. He said, no, you can't do it. He said, you might have to go and get a prosthetic arm if you haven't got one. I said, would this do? And I'd made a prosthetic arm. And he said, oh, I don't know, he said. So I said, well, it's only the top half of the arm I'd made. I said, let me finish it off. I said, when it's finished, can we go and try it? He said, yeah, okay, we'll do that. So I finished the arm and I took it in and I said, this is it. And I went flying with my instructor first. He said, let's try it. He said, let's see what happens. And it worked brilliantly. I mean, absolutely amazing. I'm amazed, really, and astounded that I created it because I had no real design apart from the design that was in my mind. And that was constantly changing. With every obstacle that I came across, just needed a solution. So it changed its pattern and design with every solution that was added to it. But when it was finished, it worked fantastic. So that meant that they couldn't say to me, well, you can't fly an aircraft because now I could control the throttle and the steering at the same time. And the main guy, who was called the chief flying instructor, the CFI, took me flying and he said, right, do this. He said, do that, do this. And he gave me all these difficult things to do. And he said to me, right, he said, I can't stand in your way any further. And he was trying to be, he kept putting obstacles in front of me, but I jumped over every obstacle. And he said, well, you've proved you can do everything that I said you couldn't do. He said, so I don't see any reason why you can't have your medical and you can't continue with your flight training. So I got my medical and I continued with my flight training and I passed my private pilot's license in 2015.
Brilliant. And of course, while you were doing that, you tackled a second massive fear, which was horses.
I was terrified of horses, absolutely petrified. And people say, why are you so afraid of horses? But as a young boy, I was attacked by one over the field from the fields where I live, just over the road from me, are the same fields where I lost my right arm, but also at a younger age where I was attacked by a horse. So I was petrified of horses, but I didn't want to be afraid of horses. I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't need to have the fear or to not have the fear. It was irrelevant, really. It only mattered if I really wanted to do horse riding. I didn't really want to, but I just didn't want a fear of horses. So I thought, it's like a dog, they say, don't be afraid of a trained dog. You've only got to be afraid of an untrained dog. And I thought, well, maybe that horse was an untrained horse, or I was an untrained person. So I thought, right, in that case, I'll go and take horse riding lessons and see what happens. So I took horse riding lessons, and the first lesson I had, I was scared. I didn't really like it. The second one was not much better. And eventually, I met a horse that I liked, and she was called Maddie. And she was a beautiful, beautiful horse. And it was really weird. It was like a psychic connection. I just connected with this horse, and I felt like she was my best mate, and I'd known her for ages. And I felt comfortable with her, and she felt comfortable with me, and I felt like she was looking after me. And I just really gelled with her. And from that moment on, I got better and better and more confident and improved. And then I kept meeting different horses and other horses that were beautiful that I also gelled with and I got on with, and some that I didn't. But, you get like, definitely it's a psychic link you get to an animal like that. It's absolutely wonderful. And I continued with horse riding lessons, and I came 5th in the national dressage qualifiers in 2014. But in 2019, I came 3rd.
So most people just kind of I'll take some flying lessons, I'll do some riding lessons. No, you have to go and become a champion at equestrian riding. And
Well, it's strange because the champion or being like third place or second place or whatever wasn't really on my radar again. What was on my radar was not to be afraid of horses. But the more I learned, the more hungry I became for knowledge. And I wanted to do different things. And I wanted to push myself to see if I could make my horse do this and make myself be able to handle the things that the horse could do and I wasn't sure I could do. And before you know, you get to a level where they say, well, what are you going to do with this new skill? And I say, well, what can I do with it? And they say, well, why don't you compete in a dressage competition? And I said, well, yeah, all right, that sounds like a good idea. But again, it wasn't on my radar. It was something that was just presented to me. I often say this, and it's really true. I don't have a plan of my life. I really don't have a plan. I mean, I dare say somebody has written a plan down for my life somewhere, if you believe in that sort of thing, in destiny and future and all that. I dare say there is a plan, but I'm not sure I wrote it in this life. And, all I do is when I see opportunities and they present themselves, I take them, I grasp them with both hands, metaphorically speaking, and I go for it. I think, well, why not? Why not? What have you got to lose? Yeah. The only thing you've got to lose is you won't achieve that goal if you don't ever try it. That's all. Mm-hmm. So I just put myself out there and I think, well, I'll have a go. And that's a bit like becoming an author as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So what made you decide you wanted to write the book? What was the do you want to flash it up again? What was the driver behind this? What?
So I am slow at times. Behind this. So what was the driving force behind this?
Yeah.
Well, I've been writing that for years, and I guess why did I decide to write it? Somebody said to me a lot of years ago, because I work as a motivational speaker, they said, why don't you write a book? If it gives you nothing else, it gives you credibility as a published author. I thought, oh yeah, okay. But it was more than that for me, because I realized that once I'm gone, my story will be gone. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like everybody wants to leave a little bit of a lasting legacy, don't they?
Yeah.
I thought, well, this is gonna kill a few birds with one stone. It's gonna leave me lasting legacy, so my story can be told. Although there's a lot more to be told because there's a lot more to come, or I hope so. And then the second bit is, of course, it does give me credibility as a published author, which helps with when I'm going to the speaking events. And plus, I think people should know it because it just. I want people to realise that if a guy with one arm can do all the things that I've done, then there is no stopping everybody else. They just don't realise at this point that, how strong they are and how capable they are of doing anything. And it doesn't even matter about education, because I wasn't a well-educated guy. I'm totally not educated. In actual fact, I would call myself stupid and a bit thick. And other people would say not, but I don't think I'm clever at all. And I think it takes a clever man to realise how stupid he is, because I know how much I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's. I wouldn't say you were stupid by any stretch. You've got your degree. You've put yourself through school. You've actually, recognised that you wanted to learn more. So I would suggest that maybe stupid's a bit harsh, but understanding your limitations and knowing and being able to say, actually, do you know what? I don't know anything about that, so I'm going to go and learn. I think that actually makes you very clever. In fact,
but I realize the thing about me is I realise the amount of stuff that I don't know, and I'm so hungry to know everything. And to be able to, if somebody said, well, you can't do this because it's only a specific engineer or technician can do that type of stuff. And I think, well, no, that's rubbish. Mm. All them special technicians were just like me at one point. They didn't have that knowledge. All you got to do is gain the knowledge. And it's like everything, isn't it? So I do study a lot and I do research a lot. Even now, I'm studying and researching every day. There's always something that I'm learning to do that's something new, a new task. And always,
yeah.
And it sounds a bit crazy, but I'm always on the computer. I'm always Googling something. It's easier these days. You can Google it, how to do this, how to make an airplane. That's one I've been Googling recently.
You're going to do it all on your 3D printer and you build all your bits individually?
Yeah, I've been building parts for jukeboxes, motorbikes, vintage motorbikes. Did I tell you I got back into motorbikes? I'm rebuilding vintage motorbikes and I found I've been making loads and loads of parts, and so much so that I've even got people contacting me from Australia Can they buy the bits off me? I had a guy in Australia. I put a message up on one of the Facebook groups, and I needed a part for a really old 1940s motorbike. And this part doesn't exist. It's only a rubber grommet, but it's a specific type of grommet with a specific shape. And you can't get them anywhere. Nobody's got them. They're just not available. And this guy in Australia said to me, if you find a way, he said, of where you can buy them from, or if you come across any, he said, will you get some for me? So I contacted him back and I said, look, they don't exist. You can't get them. I'm going to make them. He said, how are you going to make them? I said, well, I'm going to research casting rubber compounds. I said, I'm going to make a mold. I'm going to 3D print a mold. If I can get the dimensions of this specific grommet in this part, I said, I'll 3D print a mold. I'll do all the, because I've learned 3D modeling while I've been in lockdown. So I made the 3D model and printed it out on my 3D printer. And then I poured casting rubber into it. And I pressed these rubber grommets out that are an exact reproduction of the original. The guy in Australia bought 5 of them. His mate bought some. And I've made some for my own motorbike.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It's true, isn't it? You know, the necessity is a mother of invention.
Yeah. So, and you're not shy of being on TV, are you, Steve? Because you've had quite.
I like being on TV.
Yeah.
I really enjoy TV. It's one of those situations where you've just got to be yourself. I know I've seen people that talk really well privately, and you think, wow, they're great. And when they get on TV, they totally freeze up and they clam up. I don't get that. I don't get it, because all you've got to remember is you're not speaking to 1 million people or 6 million people or 60 million people that might be watching you. You're not speaking to them. You're only speaking to the person that's in front of you. You're not even speaking to the camera. You're only, in actual fact, when you're speaking to a camera, you're actually speaking to somebody that is behind that camera. So if the cameraman's there, he's got his camera on you and he's got his head to the side like that, and he'll say to you, so tell me how that works, Stephen. And you say, well, it worked like this, you see, and I did that, and blah, 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 blah. And you're talking to this guy that's head is just at the side of the camera. But when you play it back, it looks like you're looking right down the camera lens and you're talking to the people in the audience. You're not really. You're just talking to one person. So, yeah, I do like it. And, of course, live audiences are different.
Yeah.
Like in the Davina McCall show. Yeah, that was a live audience. And then, of course, the One show, that was a live audience. But I loved that. It was brilliant.
You stitched yourself up good and proper on the Davina one, didn't you?
I did, didn't I? I did. But when she said to me, what are you doing next, Steve? What's the next challenge? I thought, well, I'm not really sure what the next challenge is. And I said to her, well, I'm writing my book. And she said, oh, great. And I said, you're going to love the title. And she said, what is it? And I said, no harm in trying. And the whole audience erupted in laughter. I thought they'll keep that in.
Yeah.
Because, of course, a bit of marketing, a bit of PR, they'll probably try and cut you out and not even include it. But I thought as soon as we got that such a great response, she loved it. She was hilarious. She was sort of like, couldn't stop laughing. The audience were sort of like all up in laughter. And I thought, yeah, they'll keep that in.
And, of course, that led to Davina doing the forward in the book for you, which was absolutely brilliant of her.
That was. I really wasn't certain what to do about that. And I thought to myself, it was only maybe a few days later, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to send her a message. Because by this point, she was following me on Twitter. I thought, wow, that's great. So it meant I could private message her. And I thought, that's nice. She's following me on Twitter, you know, somebody that famous following little old me. So I sent her a private message and I said, I really love the show. Thank you, Davina. I said, would you mind? I said, it's a big ask, but would you write my foreword for my book? And she replied back, I'd love to do that, Steve. And I thought, wow, I didn't expect that. But surprisingly, a few days later, I got a message through from somebody called Davina and a different name saying this lovely writing. I thought, oh, that's nice. I just replied back saying, thank you, Davina, for a lovely testimonial. I thought you must have seen me speak, this Davina person. Anyway, I contacted Davina McCall like a couple of weeks later and said, you haven't written that foreword for me, Davina? She said, yeah, I've done it. I said, oops. I said, you weren't Davina, blah, blah, were you? And she said, yeah, that were me. I said, I said, stupid me. I was expecting a message to come from Davina McCall, but it came from Davina, whatever her real name is. Yeah. And that's when we included it. And once I tweeted about it, and she's tweeted back a couple of times now. I don't really seen the latest tweet when I put a little bit of the video and I tweeted that and she tweeted back, love Stephen, so inspirational. And that's got, at the moment, 29,500 views.
Brilliant.
That's brilliant.
So, I mean, this year you've had another flash onto TV. We're going to probably be seeing you on our screens later on this year. Tell us, what are you doing? What are you doing, Steve?
I'm going to give you a. Let me just give you a hint. Let's have a look. Do I look 10 years younger? I don't know whether you can get. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I do. I just look at these glasses. Can you see them there?
No,
Ray-Bans. No, Ray-Bans. 250 quid for the frames. And I don't know how much for the lenses, but supplied courtesy of Vision Express, because, of course, we were filming in Vision Express for 10 years younger in 10 days.
So do you reckon they made you look 10 years younger?
Not really. But, you know, TV is a strange thing, really. What they do to make you look 10 years younger, I'm going to give you the quick once over what they actually do. To start with, they try and make you look as old as they possibly make you look. So if you look quite trendy with because I went down and we were filming me in the street, and I had my nice jacket, my winter coat on, I had my scarf on, I had my little cap on and my glasses. And first thing they said to me is, "Oh, Steve, can you take your hat off?" And took my hat off. "Oh, can you take your glasses off?" Took my glasses off. "Oh, can you take your coat and your scarf off?" I said, "It's middle of winter." "Yeah," they said, "Steve, but you look too trendy." So what they did is they trended me down to trending me up. So when they trend you down, they'll say, "Oh, he looks a bit like he's not really with it." So what do you think they said my poll age was?
I'm going to go 58.
62, they said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know they'd go, and I know they were going to go old. And then afterwards, in actual fact, I'm not sure how much we can tell you, just in case, you know, because it hasn't been aired yet. But I was younger when they finished. But I was younger than the 62. Doesn't necessarily mean I was 10 years younger than my actual age, which is 57.
Yeah.
Which would have been the 47, which I'll go for that.
So,
although I never liked the 40s.
Are we allowed to say what colour they did your hair?
Yes, you can. It was Ed Sheeran Ginger. In actual fact, when the first bit, when I took a photograph of when they stripped all the colour out of my hair and it was like white, and I thought, that's actually quite interesting. Why don't you just leave it like that? And then they said, "Oh no, we're going to put some colour in it." And they put some colour in, and everybody rushed down saying, "Oh, not sure that's right. I think we need a bit more brown in." So apparently that was bright red at that point. So the gingerfied me down a bit, but I was still like Ed Sheeran once I'd been gingerfied down. I'm not sure gingerfied is a real word, but I like it.
I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait to see it. I mean, your skin colour isn't leaning towards ginger. Oh. So, wow. Did they put you in some really trendy half-mast trousers and shoes with no socks or something?
How did you know that? Well, not really. Sort of like half-mast trousers, a little bit high. Did it have socks on? I don't know. I don't like the idea of no socks and shoes because you get sweaty feet. And when you get sweaty feet, you get smelly feet, and I don't like either.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure about that one. So no, they put me in proper shoes, and they put me in a nice suit. A nice suit, except the trousers were way too tight, way too tight. And I did get a little bit panicky at one point that I was divulging more than I should have been divulging.
Do you look like a member of the Bee Gees or something?
Oh, they were so tight. It's like they poured me into them. And I had to drive home all the way in them. I've not put them on again since. And I said, "Can't you get me some bigger trousers?" And I'm still waiting for a larger pair of trousers. It's not, I mean, they were only 28 waist. I'm only 28 waist anyway. But some 28s are super small and some 28s are super large. These were the super small 28s.
Oh, I genuinely can't wait for it. So what's next, Steve? What do you, other than your coming up with parts and things, what's next?
I've been thinking about what's next, really. I'm speaking in Australia next year, but I'm thinking of a new challenge. And somebody said to me the other day, "Why don't you fly an aircraft around the world? Because that young kid has just done it." Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that would be interesting because I would be the first one-armed man to fly an aircraft around the world. Or maybe just do the coast of England. Or from here to Perth in Australia to visit my mate. So I don't know. I'm thinking about that. Either that, or I quite fancy something different. I still fancy doing my TV show that I've had a bit of interest in, which is a Come Fly with Steve. I quite fancy that. And I forgot. The next ultimate challenge is I'm going to get my motorbike license and ride a motorbike again. I forgot about that one.
Right, okay.
I bought the motorbike. I've got 6 motorbikes at the moment. And after having none for years and years, I rode a motorbike for the first time in 37 years, a couple of years ago. And I've decided I want to ride a specific motorbike, and it's called a Yamaha XT 500. And it's a bike from 1979. And it's one that I remember when I was a kid. And I think I'd really like to ride that. So I'm going to take my motorbike license on that bike and get my bike license. Maybe then I'll go do a few little excursions on my bike. But I've also taken up cycling.
As you do. And we've not mentioned dancing either, have we?
Oh, no, I'm an avid dancer. I love dancing. So I started salsa dancing many, many years ago. Like, it must be 20 odd years ago now. And it was just a way to meet new people, because I split with my long-term girlfriend and I wanted to make some new friends, because I didn't want to slip back into the old friends that I had previous to dating this lovely woman, by the way, she was, for like 5 or 6 years. And I wanted a new group of friends. So I took myself salsa dancing, and I've been doing that ever since. And then I started rock and roll dancing, and I love that, really love that. And then I did ballroom dancing. So, somebody has mentioned to me, I should do Come Dance With Me. Is it Come Dance? What is it, Come Dance With Me?
Oh, it's
What's it called?
Ballroom.
Strictly Ballroom. I was close. Come Dine With Me. That's the one. Yes. I've been asked to go on that one. That's why I'm getting them all mixed up. I was going to go on it, but I thought, no, I don't want them rooting around my drawers and all over the place in the house. I didn't like the idea of that. So I didn't do that one. Yeah, the Strictly Ballroom. So it has been mentioned a few times, but I'm not sure how we do that. But you might know somebody.
You never know. Somebody might watch this, pick it up. So we've touched on the fact that you're a motivational speaker. So you're off to Australia. You got any other speaking events lined up?
Yeah, well, speaking events have totally dried up for everybody because of the pandemic, of course. But they're starting to creep back in at the moment. So I've got a few inquiries, which is great. I'm speaking in York in October. I was supposed to be speaking in September, and I don't know whether that's still going ahead yet. They're still a little bit uncertain. And I was supposed to be speaking this month, but they've been cancelled because they wanted to go live instead of virtual, and they're still not uncertain what's going to happen, whether we're going to really truly unlock on the 19th or not. So that's still up in the air. So I guess people don't have a great deal of confidence to put on live events. So they're all still cancelling at the moment until they know that was 100% certain and we can go ahead with them. But Australia next year is confirmed, but it was confirmed for last year and it was confirmed for this year. So, I'm hoping that we don't have a resurgence and we're right back to square one, next year or later this year. But yeah, so the speaking gigs are coming in. It's just a case of, when can I get out there? When can I get in front of the audience? And when can I deliver my keynote talks and meet some lovely people again? Because I really enjoy that.
Well, so if we manage to whet your appetite, so no harm in trying.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. So it's available from all good bookstores. It's available online. It's out now. So you'll find.
Buy it. Please buy it.
You'll find we've got lots of really good. I just flick through. We've got loads of pictures of Steve doing all kinds of things in there as well. So please do get a copy. You'll find that there's so many things that we haven't touched on, like Steve getting his various awards and into various different predicaments, and some embarrassing moments too. So
some great ones.
So please do get yourself a copy of that. Steve, as always, it's been a massive pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will speak to you soon. Right, take care.
Speak soon. Bye-bye.